Well, as you heard from Mr. Yamashita, how this movement started and this group of chefs started all of this. A lot of the things that have happened over the years were really timing, you know, of who was around and who met who. My chance meeting of Roy was through Chuck Furia. I knew Kurt Kurt was in Waimanalo before he went to the Big Island to farm, so I had known Kurt also. And, we had always talked about this and how we could get more of our products out into the general public. And, back then we didn't know about branding or anything like that, but we learned quickly that having people like, Peter, Roy, George, um, using the products and basically promoting it helped all the farmers with their sales and becoming well known, because a lot of times you go into restaurants and they'd ask, okay, who are you selling to? And you just mention, oh, Roy Yamaguchi or Alan Wong or George Marlborough. They would all go like, oh, okay, we'll buy from you too. So it's like a validation. I mean, that's how they brought this movement forward, and it just grew from there. And that's my feeling. It was that I just met them at the right time, and plus I was also not real happy with the system back then of how we had to sell to wholesalers, and they would tell you what they would buy it for, price-wise. And that wasn't, that wasn't in my culture back then. So I didn't like that. Anyway, those are some of the things that I think help the movement at the beginning. And in today's world, we always talk about sustainability. We talk about growing agriculture and helping our local economy with the tourism industry and everything else. And agriculture is key to it. It's very key, because we can do things with products that, we can grow products that these women and men that are chefs that we have here in Hawaii can do amazing things with them. And this doesn't only include the HRC chefs. I mean, there's a lot of young chefs here like Lindsay and Colin Hazama and Michelle, and that really are doing magnificent things with our local products. And the beauty of it is they seek it out. That's the other part. They want these products. And I think that makes it even more important for farmers going forward to look at that and hopefully produce more for these people. The problems going forward with sustainability and everything else are, I think the largest thing is probably climate change. I will tell you, it is here. There is climate change. And we all need to be conscious of it. And we all need to start looking at ways of mitigating some of the things that happen from it. Also, going forward, because of climate change, I do think agriculture needs to change, and we need to look at technology in a major way of doing more things indoors. It's more expensive up front, but it's more of a guarantee that there's a constant supply and those types of things, okay? Workforce is another thing that, not only farms, but restaurants have a problem with it. And those are the things that are gonna affect how we grow and how we sustain ourselves going forward. Okay? So, with that being said, from my part, and Denise told me, shut up at some point, so I'm gonna shut up, and I'm gonna start with Jehu and ask Jehu, what you see in your industry, how are you looking at it and growing your business to be sustainable, and what do you see at it offering to the state of Hawaii as far as a product that we can be proud of as a state?
Well, the first part, I think so, is creating relationships with the ranchers that got them vertically integrated, because as we all know, land is very valuable in Hawaii. So the last thing you want to do is put some cows on it if you can lease it out or build something on it. But so we had to convince the ranchers that there's benefits. So getting them vertically integrated from top to bottom and building a brand around their ranch or something like that. And then they see the economic benefits to keeping product in Hawaii. Then putting the infrastructure in to make a better product. So one thing that we've done is just we've irrigated pastures to mitigate drought, but to get a better finished product for our cattle.
How do you see mitigating environmental problems with the cattle industry as far as what you guys do to make sure that you're not affecting our natural resources and things like that?
Well, not other than irrigating the pastures too, because there is environmental problems with drought, and so we've irrigated about 1,000 acres. But as with the finishing pastures, it's not around any big rivers where people can get upset. So that's the main one. And I would think just keeping the entire process on property as much as possible, so the least amount of transportation and shipping things back and forth has really helped.
Thank you. Shin, I still remember you coming home and meeting you for the first time and you saying, I don't know what I'm doing here farming, and I think a lot of us were in that position when we started out working. But what do you see as the future of local ag and sustainability, and how you and your family and your farm can mitigate some of these things for Hawaii?
I think one of the first things I think of is that as a business, we have to continue to be successful. Because when I came here 13 years ago, I looked up to Nalo Farms, Hamakua Tomatoes, and when you guys said, hey, I'm going to tap out and I don't want to do this business anymore, it kind of freaked us out a little bit. Like, did we make the right choice? Like, why are we here? Are we going to be able to survive? It's really hard to do business in Hawaii. Produce prices are affected by imports. So what we are able to sell is somewhat affected by imports. And I think that it's our job to ensure that our customers understand how their food is produced here, and why does it cost more, that it's nutritious, it's safe, and it's our job to keep having conversations with other growers and share information so that we can be successful.
What do you see as factors that can help local farmers be sustainable going forward? Because, as you look at with all the new rules and regulations and basically pitfalls that farming has, how do you see farming growing and becoming something really, 20, 30, 40% of our economy or what we produce for our people?
I see there's a lot of opportunity because there's a captive market. There's people want to buy local, and there's a lot of imports to replace. So there's also a lot of people interested in farming, but it's very challenging to get started because of the cost of being a farmer, because you think people forget, or they look at me and they're like, you don't look like a farmer. But it's a lot more dynamic than just putting a seed in the ground, watering it, and harvesting it. Today I was at the farm in Wahiawa, extremely windy, meaning our eggplants are not going to be grade A marketable for the supermarkets next week. So what I projected is only going to be half. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're putting it out there that, you know, as much as we would want to, as farmers, be able to tell you exactly how much we can produce 3 weeks from now, and these are what some of the supermarkets ask from us, by the way. You know, they want to know, and then if you can't produce, you basically sometimes they penalize you. You know, so I just want people to realize that what you see in grocery stores a lot of times, and when you see it at the prices that you're seeing it at, it's generally something that's decided a long ways in advance and has nothing to do with the weather, which the farmer has to pay the price for in the long run. Okay. Moving on, Michelle. You know, Michelle and I have always argued about Puno and Iolani, by the way. So, Punoho, Iolani. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, I love Michelle. I think the world of her. I think the world of her food. I wanted to ask her how she sees, you know, she really likes to nurture relationships with farmers. And, you know, is it, I know it's partly in you yourself to do that, but how do you get yourself to get jacked up about, you know, all the new things you see all the time? Because you're generally a pretty jacked up person to begin with, too. That's meant as a compliment, okay?
That's a new word for me. Well, first of all, you know, I wanted to thank all the HRC chefs because it's become a way of life for me. You know, with the mentorship of all Chef Alan and Roy and them, they instilled that it was a philosophy, and part of our job as a chef of the next generation is to continue on and pass on to the cooks that we work with and generations after what they started 28 years ago. And I guess to answer your question about why I get jacked up, and I've never said that word before, I didn't learn that word at Puno. It wasn't in the dictionary.
That was Iolani, that's why.
Okay, but you know, part of it is it's because of all of their hard work. The ranchers, the farmers, the fishmongers, they make our jobs as chefs easy. So when we talk to Shin or Mark Suisu from Makaha Mangoes and them, and they tell us what they're growing, I get excited because it tastes so good. You can taste the love that they put into their farming, and it tastes in the product that they sell. You know, Chef Alan taught us that happy cooks make happy food, and that's what I believe with the farmers. Happy farmers, ranchers, fishmongers, they develop great product, and it's our job as chefs to respect the integrity of the product and highlight it. And it's really easy when they make such wonderful produce and everything. And part of it, what's fun is to share with your other chef friends and share these farms with them. So when Lindsay or Garrett calls us and will say, oh, there's this new farm, and vice versa, they'll tell us about a new farm or a new ingredient. And that's how we spread it. We do it one person at a time.
That's great. Sam, you know, what kind of community involvement do you think is needed to move the needle on local food production? In other words, increase food production and make an impact on sustainability for our islands?
Of course, Dean, I answer this question as somebody who lives in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But you see it around in your travels and things too of how people do it differently in different communities.
Well, I think it requires the agreement and cooperation between the producers, policymakers, and then the citizenry. And I live in Claremont, California. We have a wonderful farmers market. But the truth is that it's more expensive than other places. I'm not sure the things we buy and consume are grown in a sustainable way. I mean, there are lots of problematic dimensions. And, you know, if the answer were simple, then we'd all be multimillionaires. But the fact is that these are problems with incredibly difficult and almost insoluble dimensions. And I'm sad that climate change is affecting the islands. I mean, I grew up in Kailua, and of course I see the beach eroding. And would I buy land at sea level in Kailua? I don't think so. Would I buy land in Kaka'ako? I don't think so. And I shouldn't say that because a lot of you have invested millions. I think I'd buy land in Manoa or St. Louis Heights or Tantalus. But these are extraordinarily complex issues, and of course, national politics just isn't helping much. And I won't say more, but clearly problems are not being addressed in the way that we would hope smart, thoughtful, rational people would address these issues. So how's that, Dean? Is that okay?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
I don't know
wasn't
who you were.
expecting to have to answer questions. That wasn't
I don't
part
know
of the deal.
I don't know who you were referring to as the smart, rational people, though. That's the thing. But I kind of figured part of it out. So in fact, it's going to lead to the next question to Jehu and Shin, in that, and we have by the way, we have a former director of Department of Ag here. I saw Scott Enright over here earlier, so I know he's here somewhere, but he took his hat off. But
I'll give up my chair. Would you like
but what do you see as in your businesses as far as working with the government and how government can help the cattle industry or the ag industry, and what are some of the obstacles that have been placed in your way in growing your businesses and making it profitable? Because I don't think the general public knows some of the things that farmers and ranchers have to go through to produce that product that's put on your plate.
Imports affect our business, and it affects the way that it's going to grow. We don't plan on really expanding the farm, but we just want to produce enough to, for the people who want to buy a good local quality product. And what government needs to do is create policies that encourage local buying in the larger institutions.
For the beef industry, I see we have to first just break down all the infrastructure and get something brand new. I mean, we have to overhaul the processing facilities. We got to compete like we're competing with the mainland. We got to scale up. We gotta have food safety. That's the biggest thing. Food safety is huge. You want to do business with the Ciscos of the world, you gotta have food safety. If you want to go back to the West Coast, you gotta have food safety. But the facilities are just, lack of better words, is not safe. Can be better. So that to me is a challenge, and finding the right partners, the right people that think that way to partner with, and then scale up and do that.
Okay, I think I wasn't watching the timekeeper over here at all, so I missed that. But I guess we're gonna go to question and answers now. So, if some of you have questions, please.
Thank you so much for this panel. Thank you, Sam. Hi, Dean. It struck me that a place that your book kind of ends, Sam, because you're really talking about more first wave of Hawaii, of HRC chefs, and where it's taken off from there is really the emphasis on sustainability and the use of local products such as breadfruit, which we wouldn't have seen, right, 20, 30 years ago on a fine dining table. So I wonder if anybody can comment on the move toward local products, more breadfruit. Taro is a bit expensive, but what you do with that and how that might create a kind of sustainable relationship between producers and chefs.
So I think sustainability, when I think about like how you talk about the breadfruit, and we haven't seen it 20 years ago and then now, I think what's interesting is the curiosity that also that there's more farmers available now, and it's becoming more diverse, and people are willing to grow different things. So if we see more ulu, we see more taro, we see, just today we got figs in. And so as farmers are becoming more diversified and there's more a variety of products coming out there, there's more things that are available to the consumers, not only at restaurants, but at the farmers market and at the grocery stores as well. So the education gets out there. And when it's one person at a time, that's how I think in some way we're going to grow the local agriculture, is because when there's more demand, then the prices will start to come down, and it goes, both ways. So by investing in more people buying locally, we will see that happen. And what's really nice is in 2014, the Hawaii Department of Agriculture started the Localicious campaign. And this past year, over 200 restaurants participated in March, and each restaurant featured a different dish using local agriculture. So when you think about 200 restaurants featuring different ingredients from local farmers, ranchers, or fishermen, then it slowly creates a bigger movement.
Aloha, I'm Ellie, and I am a public school teacher. So I'm here because, I'm teaching STEM and also Genius Hour, which means that my students has to be creative and be critical thinkers and be really, the solution. So my question would be, if I have my students, I go back in a few weeks, to be able to bring this, this news about sustainability, what are the 3 things that we need to remember as, as people who live in Hawaii? In terms of if they're gonna be entrepreneurs, what are those characters, the qualities do they need to be able to be successful in the area of, food industry, becoming chef or farmers and ranchers? Thank you.
Well, I had some kids come into the processing facility where we'll call it the abattoir, slaughterhouse. And it's interesting is I asked the kids, where do you think the steak come from? And was very honest. One of the boys raised his hand and he said, Safeway. And I said, that's true, but where it really comes from? But the thing is, they didn't know. And that's kind of sad. So we took them out to the holding pens, and I said, this is where the ribeye come from. And they look at the cow, and it's standing looking at them, and they're like, oh. Maybe a couple of them went to become vegetarians, help her business. But, teaching the kids about where it comes from, how it's produced, educating them, and teaching them that being hard workers that way is not a bad job. It can be a good job. Not everybody has to be in the computer field. But teaching them that's my take.
I think one of the most important things in whatever you do is passion. I mean, if you meet Alan, Mavro, Bev, and Roy, and all these chefs, Michelle, you're going to see and you're going to feel the passion. And that's exactly what you should feel when you go to a farmer's market and you talk to Shin or all of these producers at the market that are there selling their produce, because not to get big-headed, but I used to be very proud of what I did. And, I love doing what I did. And that's a key part of, to me, what kids need to understand going forward.
So this is a question that I run into, and it kind of spins off of what you're saying. I think we're really removed from where our food comes from. And I think we're becoming increasingly more consumer-oriented. And, I'm doing mangoes because nobody does mangoes anymore. And there was a time that everybody had a mango tree. Now nobody has a mango tree. And so I think what I'm seeing is this idea of having this experience of going to see where food comes from. It's like going to the zoo. I see people saying, that's where a banana tree comes from. Your point about the food came from Safeway, I think there's a huge need for that side of the industry to develop. I'm getting calls all the time where people want to come and visit the mango tree. You probably get people want to visit the farm. I think that's where the next wave is going to come from. If we continue to become more and more consumer oriented and not having a good feel for where the production comes from, I think we're going to lose. And I think that's a big part of what needs to happen here, is to develop that attention. And that's what's working with you, Michelle, is you have the connection with the chefs. You have the connection with the farms. And I think that's what all of us need to be doing in some way. And I don't think we have an industry that does that really well. People are calling me because they don't know where to get a mango tree. They don't know how to do this. I think that's a huge part of our industry that needs to happen. I don't know where it's going to come from, but I think that's where we all need to look at it. You guys might want to chime in, though.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's why one of the points I said was, my job is to educate, is to make people feel comfortable about what they're buying and to reinform them about the way food is grown now, and for our farm, we do eventually want to get into doing some education and bringing kids in and showing them, like, how does a tomato grow? How long does it take?
And for me, it's having the kids taste the product, and got to re-educate their palate, because they think beef should taste what they buy from the mainland. But try and create some competition between them. I'd rather have this ranch over that ranch. Without, they can't drink wine, but for us, we love different flavors of wine because of the different characteristics of terroir. But when it comes to beef, gotta be taste bland or no taste at all. So educating the kids' palates will help them want these local products in our field.
And from the chef side, I think for them seeing the products kind of side by side, showing them what a tomato does taste like, what a mango tastes like, what a really good pineapple tastes like, and then sometimes taking them to the farm, seeing how it grows, and then taking it all the way and showing them what we do with it. And I think that was amazing to me. Is one day I took my nephew to one of our coffee farms, and our coffee farmer asked him, "Oh, do you like coffee?" And he was 8, and he goes, "No, I hate coffee." I'm like, no, don't say that. This is our coffee farmer. And he was like, "No." So I asked him, I said, "Do you like coffee ice cream?" He goes, "That's my favorite ice cream, Auntie." So when he saw the coffee, then he appreciated it more. And then he saw all the hard work that went into to make that coffee. And then he saw the ice cream. And it was like, you bring everyone together. And he was like, wow, that was really an interesting experience.
One real quick story. Alan Wong, one time I go to his restaurant and he goes, "Hey, you tried the tilapia?" I go like, "No." So he goes, "Try 'em." So I tried it, I ate it, and I went back to him and go like, "This is not tilapia." Fish was firm, was tasty. I said, "Mahi or some other white type of fish." He goes, "Promise, tilapia." I was president of Farm Bureau at the time. Next week, I go out to this tilapia farm out past the glider field out in Waiawa, whatever. Okay? So I meet the farmer and he pulls out this tilapia. Swear to God, it had to be about that big. So I go like, "Who buys that?" The guy goes, "Oh, Alan Wong." So I found out that day that if you buy tilapia in the market, you buy them 1 pound, the fish is a little bit mushy. But if you fillet a 5-pound tilapia, the fish is firm and it's really tasty. So I don't know if I'm giving away Alan's secret, but But I learned something really, to me, that was pretty neat, the way he did that. He didn't know I was going to that farm though.
Okay, I want to thank the panelists because it's 7:15 and I know all of you want to go upstairs to eat and drink. I want you to continue the conversation. We have another 2 hours of eating and drinking. And I also wanted to put in a plug for the Hawaii Agricultural Foundation because our mission is really to connect farmers to the community. We have a number of educational programs for the schools. So if you're an educator and you're interested in what we do, we serve over 5,000 kids, and we actually pay for the school visits to the farms. So if you're interested in that, please come talk to one of us. We also have a CSA program. We work with local restaurants. And so thank you all. And again, we put this Eat, Think, Drink on so all of you can be part of the conversation. And I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. I want to give you lastly, I want to talk about who's upstairs on the 5th floor at the Swell Bar. We have 5 chefs. Michelle Cartway-Oka from MW Restaurant, who's here, but she's going to be upstairs. David Lukela from Alohilani, Andrew Lay from Pig and the Lady, Colin Hazama from Royal Hawaiian, and Chris Kajioka from Senia. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Yamashita one more time for flying all the way from California and for being here this evening. He does have copies of his book available for a special price of $15. It's published by the University of Hawaii Press. And he also has 2 more speaking engagements this weekend, Saturday at the shop in Mo'ili'ili at 3:30, and on Sunday at Bookends in Kailua at 1:30. I also need to acknowledge our beverage sponsors, because most of you like eating and drinking. And so Anheuser-Busch, I'd like to acknowledge Anheuser-Busch, Fiji Water, and Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. If your friends missed tonight's Eat, Think, Drink, it will be available via video and podcast on Hawaii Ag Foundation's YouTube and SoundCloud. And I want to thank Maka Studios for making that possible. I hope you stay connected and continue the conversation about what you learned this evening. On behalf of the Hawaii Agricultural Foundation, mahalo and enjoy the rest of the evening.